March Madness is here, and you can never have too much action. So if you've already filled out your brackets, you hopped on the best numbers, and you locked in those Cinderella parlays, all that's left to do is target those NCAA tournament player props. I'm Mike Calabrese. I'm joined by Erik Beimfohr, and we're here to serve up 6 of these player props in the round of 64. And as a reminder, we know these markets can be a little tricky to find, so we're going to go ahead and drop those quick slip links into the YouTube chat. They will immediately populate the props into your bet slip on your phone. But first, March is the best month of the year, not just for sports, but also for getting the best deal on Action Pro. You can get Action Pro for just over $5 a month for the entire year. And for the NCAA tournament, you'll get Sean Kerner's bracket simulations, Nick Giffin's player prop projections, and pick alerts 30 minutes before everyone else. Very important for player props this time of year. So go to actionnetwork.com/March now to get on board. Erik, welcome to the show, brother. This is the best time of year, and this is also when everyone's filled with optimism. We want to take overs. We want to take those superstars to dominate. But what I noticed when I looked at our 6-player props, we avoided the 1 and 2 seeds. Maybe we'll save them for down the road. But philosophically, is that where you land right out of the gate in these blowouts? You don't want to see a guy get 95% to a rebound, an assist, a point total, and then hit the bench and not come back for the rest of the game.
Yeah, the stability in the projection and the playing time. Generally, we might get efficiency or lack thereof on the other side in the 16-15, but efficiency can only take you so far if you're not playing the final 10, 12. We just don't know. There's so much variance. We got a lot of games to pick from. We got a lot of player props out there to pick from. I just don't feel the need to kind of wade into those waters. And even on, again, like the 16 seed side of things, the efficiency is going to be really bad. It's really tempting to take those unders, but those guys, the Rayshon Taylors on SIUE of the world, might play 40 minutes and backdoor their way, taking 22, 23 shots against the walk-ons and the third stringers in the final minutes. And so I just want to stay away from some of that variance and latch on to some of these spots that are really, really good that we can hone in on.
Now, I just said we're kind of avoiding those top seeds, those All-Americans. Just kidding. You're going with Braden Smith right out of the gate, arguably the best point guard in the entire country. And in terms of him playing 40 minutes in this game, how does the Purdue's Ole defense at the rim? Everybody scores inside the 2-point arc. Does that keep High Point in it for 40 minutes? And if so, does Braden Smith have a monster performance in your opinion?
I think so. I know this is a player prop show. I'm also on the over in this game, so I think that kind of lends into some of the Braden Smith action. But this matchup is about as pristine as you can get, in my opinion, for facilitating point guards, scoring point guards, but specifically one of Braden Smith's skill set. He leads the entire country in assist rate, over 44%. You mentioned the 40 minutes. He's going to play every minute. He's been playing every minute of essentially every game down the stretch, aside from foul trouble. And he certainly, we would expect him to do that in the tournament. High Point is a bad defense. So you combine, the best facilitating point guard in the entire country, an All-American, as you said, with the 226th ranked defense, who I could actually see this game get up and down a little bit more than maybe we would expect from both of these teams, because the offensive efficiency, I think, is going to be there on both sides. High Point plays a deep drop coverage, like very, very deep drop coverage with Jesslyn Bodo, and that's where Braden Smith lives. I think he's going to score efficiently too in the mid-range, but I think if you watch him, he's the king of the pocket pass and the no-look bounce pass, and I think we're going to see tons and tons of those. If they ever do start to collapse, he's going to kick out to shooters. I think that this number is just way too low. It actually opened at 7.5, but we can get up to plus 120 on 8.5 for Braden Smith, and I love that number.
I'm going to try to counterbalance some of these overs with at least one under here. I like Graham Ike under 16.5 points against the Georgia Bulldogs. And really, Georgia, their strength is on the interior. We just talked about 2 teams that do different things at the rim. High Point with that deep drop, and Purdue essentially being non-existent on the low block. But Georgia is 13th in points per possession allowed when defending the post. Where does Graham Ike eat? On the post. So the fact that it's a strength-on-strength matchup there, I think, neutralizes him. No one scores more points in this field from post-up opportunities than Ike. And then additionally, it's all about availability. With Braden Smith being on the floor for 40 minutes, that's great. Graham Ike on the other side of things, he is a foul machine as of late. 3 of his past 4 games, he's racked up 4 fouls. I could see him playing in the low 20s in terms of minutes if he gets in foul trouble in the first half. And then Asian Newell has done an incredible job of drawing fouls. If you look at their game against Florida, they had 3 bigs that they were throwing at him in that game, racked up 12 personal fouls across those 3 bigs, and essentially had this revolving door of guys guys going to the bench, coming back in. If EK plays sub 25 minutes, I think this is a phenomenal play. It's my favorite under in the round of 64. I think there's different ways for the Zags to win this game, and namely, they're going to have to do it on the perimeter and use spacing. EK is somebody who can absolutely dominate WCC competition when he's the biggest, strongest guy on the floor. That is just not the case. Beyond Newell, they have other bodies that can throw at him athletically, be able to swarm him, and at least get the ball out of his hands. So 16 and a half, I think, is a number that's too rich. What's your thought on EK in a matchup where people are looking ahead, kind of putting the Zags into the round of 32? I think that could be a mistake. No pun intended. I think this will be a dogfight.
I'm totally with you. I actually picked Georgia in this spot. I'm a little weary of the analytical ranking of Gonzaga. Clearly a great team, undoubtedly underseeded where they're at. But I'm a little bit weary of just exactly how good is this Gonzaga team. And then you combine it with the strength versus strength matchup here, like you said, of an SEC team who is battle tested, right? The strength that they have with post defense. They've dealt with Broom and they've dealt with the Florida boys and they've dealt with a lot of really talented bigs. They're not going to be, overly concerned any more so than a normal SEC game with EK and Huff and the big boys up front for Gonzaga. And I struggle to see how Gonzaga scores efficiently here. Maybe it's an under game as well, but I really like the Georgia side specifically because of all the things that you just pointed out with that EK matchup.
This time of year, it's KYP time. Know your personnel. There's players who are out. Keyshawn Gilbert for Iowa State done for the tournament. That's a huge blow to the Cyclones. And then you have other players coming back into the fold after missing multiple games due to injury. And that's the exact situation we have with Rain Smith and Louisville. Talk to me about what you like on his points.
Yeah, so Rain Smith looks set to return after about 2 weeks. The last game he played was on March 5th, but he only played 6 minutes. So we're really getting to March 1st, the last time Rain Smith has played. Really fun player. It's unfortunate no one wants to bet a Rain Smith under, I'll tell you that much. But I don't even really know exactly how to project his minutes. Is he going to start? Is he going to play? He was a 30-ish minute a game guy. His big production over the course of the season came often when Chucky Hepburn missed some time. So he kind of boosted up, his rates a little bit in some situations that are not what we're going to see here. So I don't know exactly what the minute floor or even the minute ceiling necessarily is here for Rain, which already puts, some chaos and some instability into this number. 11 and a half points is not nothing. This isn't just a typical kind of low usage player number that we're getting here in a pretty tough spot. He's really just a three-point shooter. If everybody remembers Jack Golke of last year, Rain Smith isn't Jack Golke, but it's not that far off. He took 277 three-pointers this season compared to 35 two-pointers. He also doesn't get to the free throw line. It's all three-pointers. So you're going to get 4 three-pointers and he goes over this number, or he's going to hit 3 or less and he's going to go under this number. The problem for him in this spot is they play Creighton. And similar to how Braden Smith can feast in that deep drop coverage that High Point offers, it's going to be very difficult for Rain Smith to even get shots off against this Creighton drop coverage. The perk of the drop for anybody that, the nerd basketball part is you can, defend the rim with your big center, Ryan Kalkbrenner being probably the best in the country at it. You're kind of dropping back off of ball screens so you can stay on shooters, run them off the three-point line. Don't give up open three-point shots, especially catch and shoot where Rain Smith thrives. I don't even know how many three-pointers he's going to get off in this game, and he doesn't take two-pointers. Combine that with I don't know how many minutes he's going to play. I think there's a lot of risk in Rain Smith here at not a super low number in his first game back. Give me under 11 and a half.
I'm going to piggyback off your Braden Smith play from earlier. I'm going to go over 31 and a half when you combine his points, assists, and rebounds. And when you look at his performance recently, you may say this number seems a little bit inflated, but you have to consider the defensive difference between what he was facing in the Big Ten and High Point. You hit on all the big points in terms of their drop defense, the fact that they're 226 in Ken Palm's defensive efficiency. But I essentially see this as a game script, game flow kind of situation. When Purdue has hit 85 points this season, they've done that 8 times. Smith's average of points, assists, and rebounds has been 34 and a half. And having the opportunity to move around those picks and get into the mid-range, he averages 7 points per game off the dribble on jumpers. That's the highest figure in this entire field of 68. So if there was ever a matchup tailor-made for a player, this is it. He could go for 25 points. He could have 12 to 15 assists. And he's also someone who chips in on the glass. He's not someone who's just sitting on the perimeter. So you get 4 or 5 additional value points to this total as well. I just view it as TKR is going to be rolling in, have easy looks. This number is going to be like a slot machine. I could see it finishing north of 35. So 31 and a half, as long as you don't have to pay that prohibitive juice, I think that's the way to go ahead and play Braden Smith in this first round matchup against High Point. Now, as we mentioned, March is the best time of year, and not just for sports, but also for getting the best deal on Action Pro. You can get Action Pro for just over $5 a month for the entire year. And for the NCAA tournament, you'll get Sean Kerner's bracket simulations, Nick Giffin's player props, and if you care, my picks 30 minutes before they go out before anybody else. Go to actionnetwork.com/March now to get on board. All right, let's close this out. We've, had some, reasonable totals going over. We've played some unders. It's time to get a little bit crazy. Talk to me about this matchup between Yale and A&M. Everyone's sprinting to the window to go with the Bulldogs after they upset another SEC team in Auburn last year. Do you think they do the same? And if so, is there an angle in terms of A&M having to play catch up in this game?
While I do like Yale in this matchup, especially against the number, it's a crazy spot for Wade Taylor volume 3-point shooting. And now that's part of why you might like Yale in this spot. Texas A&M, not a great 3-point shooting team, frankly, a very bad 3-point shooting team. Yale is going to pack it in. They are going to force A&M to shoot as many 3-pointers and try to protect the offensive glass because that's how you beat A&M. On the season, Yale's defense has led the fifth highest from a per shot perspective 3-pointers in the entire country. Wade Taylor is not going to be shy about putting up 3-pointers. Over the last 3 tournament games specifically, so last year they played 2 games. The year before they played 1 game. He took 33 3-pointers in the tournament. He can go full hero ball. And if Yale is competing in this game, I think we get a stark number of 3-pointers from Wade Taylor. That can be a miserable sweat, or you can have a game like last season. He went 7 for 10 against Nebraska in a somewhat similar matchup where Nebraska was giving up a high volume of 3-pointers. You're going to get a ton of attempts here. So at plus 172 to get to the number 4 in a game that I think is going to go down to the wire, ball's going to be in Wade Taylor's hands. He's going to take a lot of those key shots. You're going to have every opportunity to hit 4, 5, 6 threes here. Will he do it? That's a very streaky thing. But at this number, I'm willing to take that shot on a pretty juicy payout.
If you're listening and you're interested in a plus 172 payout, could I interest you in plus 650? PJ Haggerty, the go-to scorer for the Memphis Tigers to score 30 plus in their matchup with Colorado State. Plus 650. That's just an incredible number, and I'm going to get into why. Right off the bat, Haggerty's the 3rd leading scorer in the entire country and the top scorer in this field, but his backcourt mate, Tyrese Hunter, is out, which means even more of the scoring load is going to fall on his shoulders. In the last game without Hunter there, he fired up 22 shots, which was 7.5 shots more than his season average. He was already a go-to guy, but now, as you just said it, he's got to play hero ball. Now, if this game is played at Memphis's preferred tempo, which is 27th in the nation, this is going to be a very high scoring game. I think there's a better than 25% chance that Haggerty gets this number. Now, if Colorado State imposes a slower game, they play in the 250s in terms of tempo, then I think it's going to be difficult for him to get north of 20 shots. But that's why the payout is so lucrative on a play like this. It can be binary in terms of overall possessions and shot volume. But if we get there, I love my chances here because Colorado State has been running so lucky on the defensive end from 3-point range. Opponents during their 10-game winning streak shooting 27% from long range. That is not because they are playing a particular strategy where they're closing out on every shooter. People are just missing open threes, and I think Haggerty certainly has a chance to make at least 2 or 3 triples in this game. And if he does, as a 38% career shooter, or I should say this year firing in 38%, then all of a sudden the math starts to work because what does he do better than just about anybody in this field? Get to the foul line. He averages 8 foul shot attempts per game. And if he gets any of the Colorado State players in foul trouble and they're playing catch up, then everything starts working narratively for me. So when I saw this, my eyes lit up. I wanted to hop on PJ Haggerty. I know that Penny sometimes is a polarizing coach. What are your thoughts on the Tigers who've been thrown around in that overseeded conversation? Do you think they can get through the trendy 12-5 upset in the first round?
This might be the game I'm most torn on in the first round. There's a lot of polarizing matchups, the trendy underdogs, the UC San Diegos of the world, the Drakes. This game, specifically because of Tyrese Hunter being out, if Tyrese Hunter were playing, I think I would kind of like bangs gavel and roll with the Tigers. But I think he's a big deal with Neat Clifford on the other side. Haggerty, not the defender. They don't really bring a defender off the bench that can kind of fill that Tyrese Hunter role. He's also kind of the adult in the room at times, which is a little bit required for Memphis. But I do think the Penny kind of stigma is something of the past. I'm not particularly worried about some of Penny's failures in the past. I actually think PJ Haggerty, to your point, is one of those key reasons. If you remember the Kendrick Davis Memphis teams, those were kind of some of Penny's best teams. Actually, that Kendrick Davis team famously lost on kind of a tough situation at the end to FAU, who then went on to run to the Final Four. I think that was Penny's best team, and this is probably his second best team. So I love the Haggerty call, and I think Memphis is in a better spot than maybe it appears, especially when you combine that with Mountain West seemingly having some difficulty in the tournament, as we saw yet again last night with San Diego State getting blown out by North Carolina.
Before we get you out of here, Erik, one question in terms of overall strategy. I see that all three of your picks are on guards. Do you tend to stay away from bigs because of the fact college basketball, it's just 5 fouls. You pick up 2 in the first half, it can really eat into your minutes. Do you have to be in love with a number for a big to play an over?
I would say I have to be more in love with a number to play a big in the player prop plan, or have Kalkbrenner as an example does not foul. We have a very, very long track record of him not fouling, and if he does, he's probably still going to have to play through it, right? McDermott can't put Kalkbrenner on the bench for an extended period. Obviously, they are not in the tournament. They did play in the NIT last night. Maxime Renault from Stanford is the same way. Like two fouls per 40 minutes for a 7-footer is kind of crazy. There are certain instances like that, but you're also going to get into the Memphis team. Dane Danger, love him, absolute superstar. I think he's going to have a great game. But the foul risk is definitely there with a player like that. So I want to find a really good number on those guys, or maybe get into a really high efficiency type player. A guy I like this weekend is Arizona's Henry Vesar. So I think he's a really efficient player. I may not need 35 minutes, right? His projection isn't necessarily 35 minutes. He comes off the bench. He's just a really high efficiency player in a great matchup. Those I may lean into, but the big numbers on the really, really high profile big guys, I'm going to be very cautious on those.
If we've piqued your interest with this NCAA tournament player prop appetizer, the main course is right around the corner. Dr. Nick, Sean, that's Nick Giffen, Sean Kerner coming up at 5:30, giving you all of their picks as well for the round of 64. So be sure to stick in for that. For Erik Beimfohr, I'm Mike Calabrese. Thank you so much for listening. Please comment, look into the chat. You're going to be able to see those quick slips to be able to tail these plays for the round of 64.